Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير ونفع وانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة وحث على تمسك بالكتاب والسنة والدعاء إلى الهدى وابتغاء مرضات الله سبحانه وتعالى. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we're busy with ayah number 183 of Surah Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فمن خاف من موص جنفا أو إثما فأصلح بينهم فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So we're reading that when Allah says in the Quran, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. So we were speaking last week about the wasiyyah and about inheritance, that when a person leaves behind a certain kind of wealth, a certain amount of wealth, and then many of the companions, they advised, and Rasulullah also advised, many of the Sahaba advised that if you leave behind the wealth, you leave in a wasiyyah. That wasiyyah is the amount that you wish to leave behind. So you can do what you want with a third of your money. So some people, they leave a third. So Aisha radiallahu to the one person that had about 3,000 gold coins, and she told him that is a lot. Rather leave behind. If you have only 3,000, then leave the whole amount for your heirs, because that is a little. Rather leave your heirs with something, with wealth, so they don't have to go to somebody and ask. And many of the scholars, what they would do is that if they would leave a wasiyyah, that is other than what Allah has put out regarding inheritance, then they would leave behind a fourth or a fifth or only a sixth of their wealth. A fourth or a fifth or a sixth of their wealth only. So the importance wasn't to leave behind too much in your wasiyyah, in your wishes of how much you want to give. Some people, they leave behind a third, and they leave behind a third to the masjid, a third to this place, a third to that place. The danger that many of the scholars speak about is that if a person does not do these things while they are alive, then they wait to use all their money and utilize their wealth until they die. So then they think that after they die, then the money must go to all the good things that they didn't do while they were alive. So do not delay those things until you pass away. Leave your heirs with wealth, with something, so that they don't have to ask other people. Allah, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا وَإِثْمًا. So speaking about that was just in summary of what we were speaking about last week. Allah says, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا وَإِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. So when it comes to the point that you find out that maybe the heirs themselves, they make false claims, or they make mistakes when it comes to the wasiyyah. Many times a person passes away, and then people become emotional, and then they will say, no, my pa het goed so gesê, my ma het so gesê, my mother said so, my father said so, that one said this, that one said that. And they make sometimes false statements regarding the wasiyyah, or they take more than what they were supposed to give for the wasiyyah. That wasiyyah is that amount, like we said, how much you can do with what you can leave behind. You can say, okay, I wanted to go to this or that or that. But you can do what you want with that amount. And then some people make mistakes in that. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ. So if there is a mistake in that, in the wasiyyah itself, if you see there's a wasiyyah that is a mistake in, or while the person is still alive, you see them making a mistake in the amount of wealth that they're going to leave behind regarding that amount that they wish to leave behind, then you correct them. You tell them, no, it's wrong here, it's wrong there. You correct it. And even after they pass away, if you find a mistake in the wasiyyah, or if you find a mistake in the inheritance itself, there are many times it happens. Then either, I think they call it intestate, you die without the will. You die without the will, the father doesn't say anything about where his money must go. Then the one brother says, no, so much money belongs to me. Then the other one said, no, this so much is owed to me. Then what happens is sometimes one of the siblings have signing powers over the will itself, and they take the money for them, then what happens is فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. If there is problem that takes place in the will after the person passes away, and they make mistakes or they do wrong things, they take what is not theirs, or they take inheritance that does not belong to them, then there's no sin upon the person that is in the grave. But if the person passes away and they do incorrect things in the inheritance, can be a reason for punishment in the grave. That's why the safest thing, like we said, if a person doesn't, some people want to be very specific, we'll repeat this, but sometimes we want to be very specific in what we're going to be doing with our will. That one must get that house, that one must get exactly so much, that one's going to get that car, that one's going to get that. And your situation changes very quickly, sometimes over 1-3 months, and people panic. What should you do? You should just say, put the executors on your will. Somebody that fears Allah and somebody that understands the law. And then you say that this, my will and all my assets must be distributed according to Sharia. And if there is a wasiyah, then you say, I'm giving so much money, example, to that school. Example, something like that. Then you put it, but you state that this will of mine must be given out according to Sharia. Then you yourself then are safe. So later, inshallah, later on we will come again to the other verses speaking about inheritance in much more detail. Allah says after this, the next verse, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. That Allah says kutiba alaykum, that siyam, that fasting has been made compulsory upon you. So fasting is staying away from food and drink. كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. What does it mean that fasting has been made compulsory upon you, just as it was made compulsory upon those before you? Which means the Jews also fasted before. But the Jews fasted before, and the Christians also fasted before. But the fasting of the Christians were different to that of the Muslims, in that when the Christians fasted, it was compulsory upon them to leave off food from more or less like Maghrib, when the sun sets, until Maghrib the next day. And they had to also fast Ramadan. They also had to fast Ramadan. So they had to be from Maghrib, like from now till tomorrow Maghrib. It's not easy, it's very difficult. So what happened was that the Christians fasted for this period, for Ramadan. That كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. So they were also prescribed for them to fast in Ramadan. But then afterwards, fasting became very difficult upon them. So what did they do? So then their priests got together and they came up with the idea, look here, it's too difficult for us to fast in these hot days or when the days are too long. Why? Because also with them, they had to also look at the moon and to see when the sun, when a certain month comes in. So they decided, okay, look here, we're going to rather move our fasting to when? So we don't want to move it to winter, not to summer. Let us move it to springtime, in between winter and summer. So then they fasted 30 days in spring. But then what they said, look here, in order for us to as a penance, to pay back Allah for us changing the fast, then we're going to fast the extra 10 days. So then they fasted 40 days. But then one of the kings of the Christians, he started suffering from a sickness, an ailment in his mouth, and he couldn't find any cure. And in Baghawi he mentions this, and he says that he asked Allah to grant him a cure. Then Allah revealed that Allah will grant him a cure. Allah will grant him a cure, but then he has to fast the extra 7 days. Then you have to ask afterwards from 30 to 40, and with the extra 7, then he had to fast 47. Allah cured him and removed that ailment, the sickness from his mouth. Then the Christians were then now fasting 47 days. Then when this king passed away, then afterward the new king came, and the king said, look here, let us complete it and make 50 days. And then the Christians then fasted 50 days. that كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Allah says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so you must fast so that you may fear Allah. What does this taqwa mean over here? This taqwa, fear of Allah. This taqwa, what is being referred to in this ayah, this verse, is that fear of Allah regarding your nafs and your lower self. Why? Because what does fasting do? Fasting allows you to strengthen yourself against your desires and your lower self. So you have a desire for food, then you can't have food. You have a desire to be with your wife, you can't be with your wife. You have a desire to drink, you cannot drink. So all of these things, you have to control yourself. You have to break your shahwa, you break your desires. That is why some of the scholars in the books they say that the beginning of the path to wilayah, the beginning of the path to come close to Allah starts when a person is able to control the desires. If you find that you're not able to control your desire, then you're not on that path of beginning to reach Allah. You're not on that path. A man that cannot control his eyesight. That is why Salihin, the pious, were like that. If food is in front of them, they can control themselves. Like if you find yourself that when you are hungry, then you say like what do they say? A hungry man is angry man. Eh? If you find yourself to be like that, then you're not on the path of Salihin to reach Allah. If you find that yourself that you cannot control your gaze, you cannot, when maybe the opposite sex is there and you cannot control your gaze and your eyesight, then you are not on that path. That is why what fasting does is, fasting helps you and allows you to break your shahwa, your desire. That's why some people before they go shopping, they must go eat. Because if they don't eat before they go shopping, then they buy all the eatables. Some people must drink a lot before they go shopping, because if they don't drink a lot, then they're going to buy all the kinds of juices inside the trolley. So that is shahwa, that is desire. That's why they say that when you eat, do not eat too much. A man must be able to control himself. A man that can control his desires, he can control himself. So what happens is, such a man can come close to Allah. That's the beginning of the path to Allah. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, Allah says, so that you can fear Allah in controlling your desires. Allah says, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. فَأَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ. So then it is said, Allah says in the Quran that أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ, these days that you fast are specific days, specific amounts. In the beginning of Islam, remember Ramadan was revealed, came about, the Muslims started fasting when they were in Medina. They didn't fast while they were in Mecca. Ramadan. They didn't fast while they were in Mecca. They fasted while they were in Medina. But remember Rasulullah stayed behind in Mecca for a longer period of time. So there are some narrations that says that Rasulullah started fasting already in Mecca. But what is it over here, that in the beginning, when Ramadan was not prescribed, then it was prescribed upon the Muslims in the beginning of Islam to fast 3 days of every month. So in the beginning of Islam, it was compulsory to fast 3 days of every month. And they would fast also the Yawm Ashura. They would fast Yawm Ashura, the 10th of Muharram. So when Rasulullah also came to Medina, they used to fast the 10th of Ashura, the 10th of Muharram. And then Rasulullah saw the Jews fasting on that day also. So like that, then Rasulullah said, then fast either the 9th and the 10th, or the 9th and 11th, or 10th and 11th, to be different from the Jews. That so this was prescribed upon the Muslims right in the beginning of Islam, and then afterwards this was again abrogated, was taken out. So the ruling was removed. How was it removed? It was removed with the coming of Ramadan. So when the Ramadan was prescribed, then the Muslims did not have to fast on these days. They could choose if they wanted to fast the 3 days of each month, or they could choose if they wanted to fast the 10th of Muharram. That the Ibn Abbas, the cousin of Rasulullah, he said that the first verses of the Quran to be abrogated, and abrogated is if something has been, a law has been removed or replaced. The first verses to be replaced with something, or either the verse itself or the ruling to be replaced, was the ruling regarding the Qibla and the ruling regarding that of fasting. So these are the two things, first two things. Why? Because the Qibla, as we said previously, it was changed. And from the Kaaba it was changed to Jerusalem, and then again from back to the Kaaba. And then the first and the ruling that was abrogated was that of the fasting. When fasting, the 3 days, and Ashura was not made compulsory anymore and replaced with Ramadan. That and he said that نزل صوم شهر رمضان قبل بدر بشهر وأيام. That Ramadan was made compulsory on the Muslims before, how long was it? Before the Battle of Badr, by just over a month. Then Ramadan, then the month of Ramadan was revealed and fasting was made compulsory. That it is narrated that the Battle of Badr took place on the 17th of Ramadan. And that Battle of Badr took place on the day of Jumu'ah. That comes from an Aisha المؤمنين أنها قالت كان يوم عاشوراء يوما تصومه قريش في الجاهلية فلما قدم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة صامه وأمر الناس بصيامه فلما فرض رمضان كان هو الفريضة وترك يوم عاشوراء فمن شاء صامه ومن شاء تركه. The hadith Rasulullah, hadith Aisha عنها, she mentions, she says that when Rasulullah came to Medina, then that was the time that the Quraysh used to follow. Now that the Yawm Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, was a day that the Quraysh used to fast in the time of Jahiliyyah. And then when Rasulullah came to Medina, then he fasted it and he ordered the people to fast also in that time. And when Ramadan came, when Ramadan was revealed and made compulsory, then Rasulullah, according to this narration, told people that they can fast the 10th of Muharram or they can leave the 10th of Muharram. Allah says in the Quran, أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. And Allah says, those that are sick and those that are traveling, they can postpone their fasting to another day. أيام أخر. So what is meant by that? What other days? When can they fast? They can make it up on the days when they are not sick or when they are not traveling. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. So that's وعلى الذين يطيقونه, the people that are able to, they can give fidya. So this ayah, this is a verse that has also been replaced. This a verse has also been replaced. Why? Because in the beginning of Islam, that the Muslims, they could choose between fasting and fidya. Why? Because Allah says here, the one who's able to give a fidya. The fidya is that you give food, like we know fidya and the fitr. So if you have mustard day, then you give some food for somebody to eat. And in the beginning of Islam, the Muslims were allowed to choose. Either you can give fidya or you can fast. So they could either do one of the two. So then afterwards, then this ayah verse was replaced again. Why was it replaced with the ayah when the other verse was revealed and says, Allah says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Then when Ramadan came, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ, if you witness the month and reach the month of Ramadan, فَلْيَصُمْ, then you must fast. That this ayah specifically got to do with the old man that is not able to fast, or the person that is sick that is also not able to fast. That the person that is old, that's not able to fast, or the person that is sick but a certain sickness that he knows he's not going to recover from, then such a person then pays his fidya. And he can choose between one or the other. That it says, while so when there's an old man, or if there's a lady that's an old lady, and they are not able to fast, or if it's maybe a sick person, that's sick in such a way that he does not think that the sickness is going to leave him. Sometimes it's a sickness maybe like, some people get a sickness they can't fast. If they fast, they get very sick. Or if a person fears that if he fasts, it's going to it's going to worsen his sickness, then such a person does not have to fast. They can just pay the fidya. And then what they can do is they can feed a person. And when they feed a person, what must you give? So majority of the scholars, like what we follow Shafi madhab here, we give about 3 kilograms. We give about 3 kilograms per day. But there are differences of opinion among the scholars. And there's a lot of, there's a blessing having differences of opinions. Why? Because some people again can't afford maybe the 3 kilograms. So some of the other scholars that they say that what you need to do is you need to give them an amount of food that gives him enough strength for that day. So if there's a certain amount of food that gives him strength for that day, then that is also permissible. Why? Because not everybody can. I don't know how much is a fidya. Anybody know how much is a fidya? I don't know how much it is. Is it 20 something rand a day? 27 rand a day. So not everybody then can afford that. So maybe that 3 kilograms is a lot. So what you can do is give, so some of the scholars, they say you can give the amount of food that can strengthen the person. That Ibn Abbas, the cousin of Rasulullah, he says, and like we mentioned in the beginning, that we will quote, Imam Baghawi quotes the position of Ibn Abbas a very lot. And many others of Tafseer do that also. Why? Because Rasulullah made dua for Ibn Abbas that Allah grants him the understanding of the Quran. And every single dua of Rasulullah was accepted. That's why to the point that Ibn Abbas, what did he say? He said about himself, he says, I understand every verse in the Quran, why every verse was revealed, where it was revealed, except there are 6 words, not 6 verses, 6 words that I have doubt over. That is the knowledge of Ibn Abbas. So Ibn Abbas says that what you need to give for fidya if you can't fast, what you must give is, give a person, you must give him supper and a breakfast. Whatever that is in your country and whatever it is, so you feed a person supper and breakfast. That Allah says, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. But if you are able to feed more than one person, then it's better for you. So what you must do is, you must at least feed one person. So you feed at least one person. Or you give that 3 kilograms. If you're not able to, then feed one person in whatever will strengthen him for that day. Or give him a supper and you give him a breakfast. And that is for one person. And Allah says, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا. And whoever is able to give more than that, then that is far better for them. وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And to fast is far better for you. So if you are able to fast, then it's far better for you. That says that Imam Baghawi says that when a person is not able to fast, you get 3 different conditions. You get the person that has to pay the fast in, and then they have to pay the fast in, and they have to give the fidya. Then you get the second kind of person. They must pay the fast in, but they don't have to give the fidya. Then you get the third kind of person that they must give the fidya, but they don't have to pay in. So these are 3 categories of people that you get when fasting. So the person that must, example of a person that must fast, pay the fast in afterwards, they must pay the fast in and they must give the fidya. That the example of that is a pregnant person or a person that is breastfeeding, a lady that is pregnant or breastfeeding. if she fears for the baby. If she fears for the baby, then such a person, they must make qada and they must give the fidya. You with me? Person who fears for the baby, then you must make qada, you must pay it in, and you must give the fidya. And then you get the next kind, the other kind of person, the person that must pay in but must not give the fidya is a sick person or a traveler or a female that has a hayd or a nifas. And then the person that must give a fidya after Ramadan, the person that must give a fidya but does not have to pay in is an old person or a sick person that does not think that their sickness will go away. Sometimes you get a person like, sometimes it's cancer patients or so. Or sometimes some people have some bowel problems or stomach problems. And such a person, the doctors have told them that their sickness won't go away and they don't think it will go away, then such a person does not have to make qada, they just give the fidya. Then inshallah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. That this month of Ramadan was the month that the Quran was revealed in. That there are some scholars that say that Ramadan is one of Allah's names. There are some scholars that say so. The majority say that Ramadan is a name of, comes from Ramda, like something that is very hot. So they say the hot sun. So they name this Ramadan is the name of a month. There's the name of the month, الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, a month where the Quran was revealed in. That أنزل فيه القرآن. The Quran is the name of the revelation that came down with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just as you have the Torah, you have the Injil, and you have the other books. أنزل فيه القرآن. So what is meant by when the scholars say that Allah says unzila fil Quran, that the month of Ramadan was a month the Quran was revealed in? Why? Because we know that many other verses were revealed at other times. That there were many other months that the Quran was revealed in many other times during the year, and during this period over 23 years that the Quran was revealed in, it came in pieces and pieces and pieces. So what is meant by this is that the Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan because the Quran was revealed and came down from Allah, the highest skies, until the sky of this dunya, which is so it came from the Lawh al-Mahfuz on Laylatul Qadr in the month of Ramadan to Baytul Izzah. So Baytul Izzah is the limit of the sky of this dunya. So Baytul Izzah, we know where the Kaaba is. So the Kaaba, immediately above the Kaaba in the next summer is Baytul Izzah. At the end of our sky is Baytul Izzah. So these are Kaaba, and comes in the narrations that there are 14 Kaabas. There are 14 Kaabas for 14 different skies. And in each different sky there is a Kaaba directly above the Kaaba that is on this earth. And around each Kaaba there is 70,000 malaika that are making tawaf each day. And each day those malaika leave and another 70,000 come. And the 70,000 that left never ever come back. That gives you an idea of how many malaika there are and how vast is the creation of Allah. So the Quran was revealed on Laylatul Qadr in the month of Ramadan, from the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the tablet, to Baytul Izzah. And then from there Jibreel came from Baytul Izzah with the revelation to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, piece by piece. That is narrated that Jibreel would come to Rasulullah sallam and he would read the Quran to Rasulullah sallam. He will complete the whole Quran in the month of Ramadan to Rasulullah sallam. So شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. That another opinion that says that in Baghawi says that the Quran was revealed in this month of Ramadan. And Jibreel came with the complete Quran to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then certain ayat Allah caused Rasulullah to forget, and certain ones Allah caused him, allowed him to remember. Is this far-fetched? No. There are many verses like Surah Ma'idah. Surah Ma'idah was 3 times the length it is now. I think Surah Ma'idah is 100 and something ayat. So it was over 300 verses first. And then what happened was that the Sahaba, they were together and they were going to read Surah Ma'idah, and every single one of them could not read it. And we covered that previously in Tafseer. So then Allah caused it to be removed from the hearts. Allah says, مَا نَنْسَخْ مِنْ آيَةٍ أَوْ نُنْسِهَا. Allah says, we abrogate, we remove certain verses, أَوْ نُنْسِهَا, or we cause them to forget it. But they know they were ayat, but they forgot everything. Allah removes it from the heart. So that is what the scholars say regarding Imam Baghawi mentions that over here. He says that Rasulullah says, عن أبي ذر عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that Abu Dhar, he narrates from Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he says, أنزلت صحف إبراهيم في ثلاث ليال ماضين من رمضان وروي أيضا في أول ليلة. There comes in a narration, it says that the book of Nabi Ibrahim was revealed in the first night of Ramadan. And then وَأُنزِلَتْ تَوْرَاتُ مُوسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ فِي سِتَّ لَيَالٍ مَضَيْنِ مِنْ رَمَضَانِ. And Rasulullah says in the hadith, he says that the Torah of Nabi Musa was revealed in the first 6 days of Ramadan. وَأُنزِلَ الْإِنْجِيلَ عَلَى عِيسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ فِي 13 لَيْلَةً مَضَتْ مِنْ رَمَضَانِ. That the Injil, like the Bible of Nabi Isa, was revealed in the first 13 days of Ramadan. وَأُنزِلَ الزَّبُورُ دَاوُودَ فِي 18 مَضَتْ مِنْ رَمَضَانِ. And Rasulullah says in the hadith that the Zabur of Nabi Dawood was revealed in the first 18 days, 18 nights of Ramadan. And the Quran, وَأُنزِلَ الْفُرْقَانُ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم في 24 من شهر رمضان لست باقين بعدها. That the Quran was revealed in the first 24 nights of Ramadan. And Allah says further in this verse, how much time is left? 14 minutes. Allah says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. That whoever witnesses this month, whoever reaches the month of Ramadan, that person must fast. This is not a fiqh lesson. I think so. We going into some fiqh because it is fiqh issues inside here, and all fiqh is derived from Quran. So we're just mentioning a few opinions regarding it. That the scholars they mention, but that whoever reaches Ramadan, he must fast. That now there comes differences in opinion about the person that he's maybe now here in Cape Town, and when he is in Cape Town, Ramadan comes in, okay, they see the moon, and now he decides, okay, wait, he's going to go travel. So then they say, can such a person break their fast, or must they fast? Because they've reached Ramadan, so they come now after Maghrib, they come, and then they're going to prepare for their traveling. They're going to now make their suhoor. Can they break their fast, or must they fast? If a person comes into Ramadan, Ali radiallahu anhu, he says, such a person that witnesses Ramadan, that the Ramadan reaches them, such a person cannot break their fast. They must fast. So now if you fasted, now you make your suhoor, you eat the morning, and you're fasting, then you decide you're going to travel, you break your fast. So you see, that's one of the opinions. He says that فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. But that is one of the opinions of Ali radiallahu anhu. But majority of the Sahaba and majority of the scholars, they say that it's permissible to break your fast. That there comes another hadith of Ibn Abbas أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خرج إلى مكة عام الفتح في رمضان فصام حتى بلغ الكديد ثم أفطر وافطر الناس معه فكانوا يأخذون بالأحدث فالأحدث من أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this narration, Ibn Abbas, he says that Rasulullah sallam on the Aam al-Fath, the year when Rasulullah sallam entered Makkah and the conquering of Makkah, that Rasulullah sallam, it was Ramadan, and Rasulullah sallam broke his fast. And then all the other Sahaba, then they also broke their fast. So then the Sahaba would follow whatever Rasulullah sallam did. And Allah says in the next ayah, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, that whoever is sick or is traveling, then they must pay in the days on another time. Now comes to who is considered to be sick. That some scholars they say that whoever that name can be attached to that word of being sick, then such a person can. So example, if you are sneezing, then you are sick. Such a person, if that name can be attached to you, but you being sick, then you consider it as those people that are sick, then you don't have to fast, then you have to pay it in. That's the scholar of Ibn Sirin. He says that they even said that they said that دخلت على Ibn Sirin في رمضان وهو يأكل. So they entered upon Ibn Sirin in the month of Ramadan, and they saw he was eating. They, oh, why are you eating? He says, no, my finger's sore. So I'm sick. They fell into that category of being a sick person. Why do we mention these different positions? Why? Because in the difference of opinion is a ni'mah, it's a blessing. Because sometimes, because Allah, Rasulullah would always choose the easiest of two paths. So we're not saying that now, if you just hurt your finger, you must now, I'm not going to fast now. Why that? Why Allah says in the Quran, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. There's a difference between fatwa and taqwa. Like you said, fatwa, we explained fatwa. What is a fatwa? The fatwa is in the Shafi madhab, you must wash 3 hairs. But taqwa, fear of Allah, is you wash your whole hair, wipe all of your hair. So when a person takes wudu, do they wash 3 hairs? No. Did Imam Shafi ever wash 3 hairs? No, he never washed 3 hairs. But the fatwa, the ruling is, you must at least wash 3 hairs for your wudu to be accepted. So this is Ibn Sirin will say that if a person finds themselves in such a condition, there is a way out for them. That is what it is. There is a way out for you. The same like when you do with, when you make tawaf, that's the main thing. When you make tawaf, you go, you're going to Shafi madhab, you're going to make tawaf and you're going to take wudu 100 times. Every time you're going to touch the arm of another female, your hand's going to go against another female, then you must, every time stop your wudu, go outside, go take wudu and start again from that point. No, then you follow the Hanafi madhab. There's a different opinion, but then it makes it easier for you because now, as I say, wudu, you take a wudu and then you just make the tawaf according to that scholar. Why? Because in such a condition, you can't, it's too difficult to follow the Shafi madhab. In some scholars they say that what kind of sickness allows you to break your fast. So some scholars say that if it is a sickness that causes you to make salah while you are sitting on a chair, that allows you to make salah while you are sitting on a chair, then that causes you to fall in the category of a person that can break their fast, that does not have to fast. If that sickness causes that you're forced to sit on a chair, that will be that the person like that, with a person with a back problem will then fall into that. But remember, Allah says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, but fasting is better for you. But then they say, the majority of the scholars, they say that the sickness, if you fall into the category of a sickness that if you fast, it will cause you to become more sick, or it will affect your health negatively, then such a person has an excuse not to fast. So if you now have a flu, but by fasting you can't take your medicine, and if you by fasting and not having food is going to cause your body to become very weak and your fever to get worse, then that is, the majority of the scholars and ulama say, that is the person that falls into the category of a sick person that doesn't have to fast, that can rather fast, make it up after Ramadan. It comes in another hadith that Ali bin Hussein, so the Ali bin Hussein was a great grandson of Rasulullah, he said, لا يجوز الصوم في سفر ومن صام فعليه القضاء. That is not, this is another opinion, that he says is not permissible to fast during, while you travel. This is just the last thing that we will mention, and we will speak about this again next week. That he says it's not permissible to fast while you are traveling. Some people, when they travel, and then they say, no, look, I want to fast. And then the person thinks that they are being more pious by fasting. You are not being more pious by fasting. Why? Because what is piety? Piety is following the example of Rasulullah. And Rasulullah says in the hadith, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصَّوْمِ فِي السَّفَرِ. Is not of obedience, and is not, in other words, not of piety to fast while you are traveling. So it's very important to know how to come close to Allah. Sometimes we do certain things, we feel within ourselves, if I do this, then I'm being more pious. No. When we do certain things, we do it according to the example of Rasulullah. So Rasulullah says that لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصَّوْمِ is not from obedience or of piety to fast while you are traveling. That comes another hadith, in the last hadith we mentioned, Ali bin Jabir bin Abdullah قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر فرأى زحاما ورجلا قد ظلل عليه فقال, that there was a man that they were traveling, and this person was in a very difficult condition. Rasulullah asked, Ma hada, what is this? What is wrong with this man? Then he says that he was in a bad condition. He says, they said to Rasulullah, this man is fasting. And Rasulullah said that laysa min al-bir as-sawm fi safar, as not being obedient, is not of piety or of obedience to Allah to fast while you are traveling. هذا حديث how much time left now? 4 minutes. That عن سعيد, he says that كنا نسافر مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في رمضان فمنا الصائم ومنا المفطر. That he says that we were with Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم during Ramadan, and there were some of us that were fasting and some of us that broke our fast, and Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم wouldn't put down the one that fasted, or wouldn't put down the one that did not fast. So inshallah, there are different opinions on it, and we will continue because it's still quite a bit regarding the fasting. We will speak about that in next week's class, inshallah. سبحانك الله بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.
Fasting with travel, is that if you're leaving before Fajr? Is it in general, when fast to travel? Back to
Generally, that it was at Rasulullah sallam.
oh.